Hello, the internet. This year I started and finished more games than I've played in a very long time. Enough, in fact, that I was able to make a top 10 list. Now, most of these games I played on stream, but a few I did play in my free time. So let's just jump into it. Let's start with number 10, Devil's Drizzle. Devil's Drizzle released in August of 2025 after a Kickstarter campaign. I played the demo back in April and immediately funded the Kickstarter. The game is an adorable platformer where you play as a kid who's lost his best friend, a talking umbrella. You embark on a journey across several unique levels while being pursued by the demon Pazuzu as you try to save your friend. It's a fairly short game with just the right amount of difficulty that you can finish the game and still put more hours in, challenging yourself to collect all of the hidden coins. The art style, music, and humor all come together to create a really fun experience. Moving on to number 9, Life is Strange Double Exposure. Small spoiler for the rest of this list, but I did play a few of the Life is Strange games this year, so if Double Exposure made my list at number 9, you can safely assume that others will be appearing. I was incredibly excited to continue playing as Max Caulfield and see how she's grown since the events of the first game. Uncovering the mysteries at Caledon University and getting to meet a new cast of characters was so much fun. I realize there are mixed opinions on this game, but I truly enjoyed getting to see Max's growth and explore how the events of Arcadia Bay have continued to impact her, and ultimately, how she used those experiences to help everyone at Caledon begin to process the events of Double Exposure based on the final scene at the Snapping Turtle Bar. Overall, I really enjoyed this sequel. Next up is Hollow Knight at number 8. I've owned this game for years and just never booted it up. I went in pretty blind and had a blast exploring the world, meeting unique characters and unlocking as many things as I could. Admittedly, I've only gotten the first ending, so I do need to go back still and fully complete the game, but getting to that first ending was a wonderful experience from start to finish. Number 7 is Last Day of June. Last Day of June is a beautiful game where you play as a man named Carl who is trying to alter the tragic events of the day his partner June was killed in a car accident. The game lets you experience that day from multiple people's perspectives. The game has no dialogue, with the characters making vocalizations that convey emotions and visual storytelling being utilized to convey the events. I was in tears when the credits rolled. This game was a wonderfully bittersweet experience. Grim Fandango is number 6. This was a game that I always saw in lists of the best games ever made, so I finally decided to give it a try. Grim Fandango is a point-and-click adventure game that beautifully blends 3D graphics with pre-rendered backgrounds. The game takes inspiration from Day of the Dead, Art Deco, and Aztec styles, and throws in a film noir feel and plot that mixes humor, romance, and some darker themes. You play as Manny Calavera on his journey through the underworld as he tries to rescue a woman he was guiding through the afterlife. The characters were all unique and memorable, and the environments were visually stunning and filled with so much personality. The puzzles were just the right amount of challenging, though I will say some of them were more in line with the late 80s, early 90s style where they were not obvious. But this game doesn't punish you in a way that King's Quest or Space Quest would if you didn't grab an item. You can't progress until you've completed all the tasks in an area, and all the required items will be somewhere in the area, so you don't need to worry about having to reload to a previous save from missing something. I highly recommend playing this game. Number 5 is Beyond Good and Evil. This is another game that I would see in lists of the best games, and again, I decided to try it out. I went into this game blind. The most I knew about this game was the trailer for the sequel from 7 or 8 years ago, and all I remembered from that was that the game had a pig in it. Needless to say, I had no idea what to expect going into this game, and if you never played it, I would describe it as action-adventure meets stealth, meets collectathon, meets Pokemon Snap. This game has a little bit of everything, but in a way that is refreshing and creates a unique gameplay experience while telling an entertaining story. Go play it for yourself right now. Digimon Story Time Stranger is number 4 on my list. I was incredibly excited to play this game. I feel like people never really gave the Digimon games much of a chance, and I'm so happy that Time Stranger brought a ton of new eyes on Digimon as a whole. I love Digimon, so getting to see the franchise have such a resurgence has been awesome. The game is the third in the Digimon Story series, but has its own story, so you don't need to play the other two first. Time Stranger takes a lot of the mechanics of the previous story games and improves on them to make for a less tedious experience to train your Digimon. The plot itself is interesting, with some twists and turns along the way to keep you hooked through to the end. It's also the only other game I played this past year that actually came out in 2025. Just a little spoiler for a certain game that isn't going to be on this list, because I haven't started it yet. Number 3 is Life is Strange Before the Storm. This game was heart-wrenching to play through, knowing what ultimately happens. That being said, Getting to play as Chloe and see how she met Rachel Amber and how the relationship grew was amazing. Seeing Chloe's evolution into the Chloe that we see in the first Life is Strange was incredible, and the soundtrack is peak. I was so happy with the ending, until the credits rolled and the game punched me in the gut with the reminder of what happens next, but even so, the game was beautiful and made me understand better the Amber Price love. Coming in second is Mass Effect. I never touched Mass Effect when it first came out back in 2007, not because I wasn't interested in it, but because I could only afford so many games, so sometimes I had to make tough choices, which meant skipping some series entirely. That being said, I managed to avoid virtually any spoilers about the series. All I knew going into it was Shepard is the main character, and the ship's called the Normandy. That was it. This game absolutely blew me away. I was immediately sucked into the story, the squad members, and the world building. One of my favorite things was just reading through all of the codex entries and learning more of the lore and the history of the various alien races and technology. I really appreciated the effort that was put into explaining how the technology works to create a sense that everything in the game is possible to exist at some point in the future. The way the game gradually escalates what is at stake and what the threat is capable of is just so well done. This game was a true masterpiece in game design, in my opinion. Coming in at number 1 is Life is Strange. I played this game in January, shortly before I started streaming, and I've thought about this game almost every day since. Seriously, I was absolutely hooked with this game and was in tears when the credits rolled, with numerous instances throughout the game of being on the verge of tears. Everything about this game was beautiful. The twists and turns took me through a roller coaster of emotions and made me reflect on so many things after each episode. I think there is something in this game that everyone can relate to and will always reference this game as a perfect example of how video games truly are art if anyone was to ever say otherwise. And that wraps up the top 10 games I started and finished in 2025. I have a huge list of games I want to play in 2026 and I cannot wait to get started on them. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, it would really help me out. And leave a comment below on what your favorite games were that you played for the first time in 2025. I'll see you all in the next video.